A very good day to all of you. This is Ankita Arora from STUDYMADEEASY. Now we are going to start a new topic, and that is offense and penalty. When I talk about offense and penalty in GST, why it is important? Because अगर हम ICA को देखें तो ICA always want one thing, and that is what they want कि penalty वाला part they have to ask. उनके लिए mandatory है, whether it is DT, whether it is IDT, and when it comes to IDT का offense and penalty वाला part, that is so easy. There is no, I can say, कुछ बहुत ज़्यादा इसमें analysis नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं है, like your DT वाला part. So let us start with the offense and penalty directly. Now, when this offense and penalty का chapter starts, see, first of all, you have filed your return. तुमने अपना क्या किया? You have filed your return. After filing the return, it might be possible scrutiny assessment. तुम्हारा scrutiny assessment हो सकता है. If it is not scrutiny assessment, it could be a random assessment also. So when you have filed your return, then after filing the return by you, जब तुमने अपना return file कर दिया, after filing of return by you, assessment would be done, and might be possible in assessment they will find what? You were required to pay the taxes, but you have not paid the taxes, or you have short paid the taxes. Remember, taxes not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, ITC, wrongly availed, wrongly utilized. What was that? Demand. So when they do the assessment, even they do assessment or they do not do the assessment, doesn't matter. So whenever they do this assessment wala part, after doing this assessment wala part, might be they will generate demand ka notice for you. Now this demand ka notice might be section number 73 wala, or it might be section number 74 wala demand ka notice. So either it could be 73 or it could be 74 ka demand ka notice, and so 73 and 74 ka ye jo demand ka notice hai, in such a case demand निकलेगी. अब penalty भी तो लगना चाहिए, but ma'am डिमांड के चैप्टर में ऑलरेडी पेनल्टी हैव बीन गिवन, तो इफ डिमांड के चैप्टर की पेनल्टी इज एप्लीकेबल, यू विल नॉट अप्लाई दिस चैप्टर वाला पेनल्टी. सो इट इज म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव. यू विल नॉट अप्लाई दिस चैप्टर का पेनल्टी, एंड समवेयर यू विल फाइंड की पेनल्टी सेम फॉर डिमांड एंड दिस पेनल्टीज आर सेम. सो basically whenever there is a demand, after the demand, it could be a 73 74 ka demand, there would be what? Penalty. So first you file the return, then there is your assessment. After assessment, then there is what? Demand and recovery, and then after demand and recovery, offense and penalty ka chapter comes. That means it is all together in a link. Now, when it comes to section number 122, ma'am क्या देके रखा है section number 122 में? So basically, if you want to learn this chapter, already one of my video is uploaded. There are 3 parts of offense and penalty where you will learn this. If you are a student who is unable to understand Hindi properly, for them I am recording this in English. Section number 122 will tell the offenses, and this is the quantum of penalty. Now, many of the places there are offenses. Offense कैसा है? You do the supply. आप supply तो कर रहे हैं, but that supply is without invoice, or there is invoice but there is no supply. Either there is invoice but supply is not there. There is supply but invoice is not there. You fails to collect the taxes from person. तुम क्या करते हो? लोगों से tax collect करते हो. You collect the taxes but fail to pay to the government within 3 months from the due date of payment. So whenever there is supply but no invoice but no supply, within 3 months after collection of tax, you fail to pay to the government. From the due date of payment, you fail to pay to the government. Fails to deduct any tax, collect any tax, you fail to deduct, you fail to collect any tax, and fails to pay the same to government. Either you fail to deduct, either you fail to collect, and even after collection you fail to pay to the government. These are the types of offenses. Supply hai, invoice nahi hai. Invoice hai, supply nahi. After that, after collection, fail to pay to the government within 3 months from the due date, or you fail to collect or deduct the TDS. You utilize ITC, contravention of act. Under any contravention, 17 subsection 5, that is block credit, that is saying ki credit is blocked. But even section number 17 5 ke baad bhi you have taken the ITC, that means contravention you have done. Obtain refund fraudulently. Fraud basis pe you are taking the refund. That is also not good. Then falsifies or substitute financial record. That means you are generating fake record, falsify kar rahe records ko. In that case also you are doing offense. So supply hai, invoice nahi hai. Invoice but no supply. Fails to collect but fails to pay, fails to deduct, falsify the records, or you utilize ITC on distributes ITC. Why distribution of ITC? Given input service distributor, he distributes ITC. So you distribute ITC in contravention of the act. All these cases, there is a fraudulent refund, section number 74. If that is applicable, you will find key penalty is same, almost same. Okay. So if it is fraudulent refund, here, agar yahan pe this section is applicable, you will not apply 74 and they will give you which section is applicable. Then after this, you failed to obtain registration. You were actually required to obtain the registration, but you failed to obtain registration. तुम्हें registration लेना चाहिए था, नहीं लिया. Prevents officer in discharging his duty. तुम किसी को उसका काम नहीं करने दे रहे. You are preventing a person from discharging the duty. You fails to maintain the books. Either you falsify the books or you fail to maintain the book. You fail to furnish the information. You have information, but you are not furnishing to the department. You transport, store, or supply such a goods that are liable to confiscation. This is a list. This is a list when section number 122 will be applicable. So what you do? Either you transport, you supply, you store such a kind of goods that are liable to confiscation. You temper or destroy any material evidences. Some material evidences you are destroying or transporting any taxable goods without the cover of document. Transporting taxable goods without cover of document. And all such cases. In all such cases, when you transport any goods without cover of document, either you are transporting, storing some goods that are liable to confiscation. So in all such cases, 122 apply. So you have supply without invoice, invoice without supply. You fails to collect or you fail to pay within 3 months from the due date to government. You temper or you destroy material evidences, you fail to furnish the information, fail to maintain the books, you falsify the books of account. In all such cases, 122 is applicable, and that 122 subsection 1. Now, what is the quantum? Quantum is rupees 10,000. Rupees 10,000 or the amount equivalent to whatever the tax you have evaded, you fail to deduct, you fail to collect, or whatever ITC wrongly availed, utilize, or fraudulent refund, whichever is higher. It would be 10,000. Minimum 10,000 will be penalty, minimum 10,000, and whatever is your default, either you evaded the tax, you fail to deduct, you fail to collect, fraudulent refund, whatever it is, whichever is higher. That is section number 122, subsection 1. Now, after this, a person who causes to commit and retain the benefit arising out of any of the following offense. Now you're trying to get the benefit from any of the offenses. Supply of goods or service without issue of invoice or issue of incorrect or false invoice. Now you are giving the invoice, but that invoice is incorrect. यहाँ पे I have purchased something that was liable to 18% का GST, but invoice you are giving only 5% वाला. Are you getting? So supply the goods and service either without the issue of invoice, okay, or you issue incorrect invoice, या तो without invoice you are giving or issuing incorrect invoice. अब यहाँ पे a person who caused to commit and retain benefit, this is the person who was issuing this thing. यहाँ पे he was the supplier who was issuing, यहाँ पे the person who is trying to take the benefit out of that thing, जो benefit लेने की कोशिश कर रहा है, person who caused to commit and retains the benefit, जो चाहता है कि उसके लिए ऐसा हो कि false invoices issue होने चाहिए. So in such a case, or again issue invoice without supply, utilize ITC. So it is the person who wants ki, I want to take the benefit, I want you to do this act, so I want to take the benefit. So amount equivalent to whatever, either tax evasion, tax not deducted, ITC wrongly availed, whatever it is. So yahan pe if you notice, when a person wants ki please issue false invoice for me or do not issue the invoice for me, that would be either for wrong availment of ITC or evasion of tax. तो यहाँ पे दो ही चीजें तो लिखी है, ITC availed or passed or tax evaded. यहाँ पे have they written anything like TDS not deducted, TCS not deducted? It's not possible ना. If I am a person, I want to avail certain benefit, मैं तुम्हें बोल रही हूँ कि generate a false invoice. So it would be for ITC or tax evasion. So that two things are written under 122 subsection 1A. Then 122(2), supplies which tax has not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, or where tax has been wrongly availed, utilized. Now remember this, same provision we have done here. Agar fraudulently you have done this and fraudulently not you have done this, it is just an error and mistake. You have wrongly availed, utilized, then tax deducted, tax short paid, not paid. This is nothing. This section is similar to your section 73, 74 ka penalty when you go to adjudicating authority and adjudication order has been passed. This is same. So whenever you do not pay the taxes, short pay the taxes, ITC wrongly availed, wrongly utilized, or fraudulently you have taken the refund, in such a case, if it is a fraud or if it is what other than fraud and you have moved to adjudicating authority, adjudication order passed, compulsory यहाँ पे this is the penalty same. दोनों जगह it is same. Then after this, any person other than taxable person. Now it is other than taxable person, ma'am. What does it mean? Person other than taxable person. सबसे पहले ma'am taxable person की what is the definition? Taxable person means person liable to register or person already registered. Liable to register, who is needed to get registered, and who is already registered. तो एक common noun जिसे बोलते हैं, a common word is taxable person, who is already registered or liable to get registered. So if such a person who is registered or liable to get registered, any offence he does under 122(1), or he acquires the possession or deals in a goods that is believed or you have reason to believe that it is in contravention. Contravention means you are removing something, or you fail to appear when someone is issued to you, or you receive a deal in a service you know that is in contravention. Either contravention means goods ka dealing you are doing under contravention, service you are doing under contravention. तुम सर्विस का सप्लाई करते हो, contravention of the act. Goods either transport, store, remove, keep, contravention. Summon issuer, you are not appearing for the summon. Any of the things, कोई भी taxable person वो सारी चीजें कर रहे हैं, that has been mentioned under 122 subsection 1, that is supply without invoice without supply. All those things, or you issue an invoice, you fail to issue an invoice according with the provision of the law. Now, according to the provision of the law, 16 number का serial number होना चाहिए, some relevant particulars that should be there in your invoice, वो सारी चीजें होनी चाहिए. So if you fail to issue the invoice or account for in accordance with the provision, if you fail to do so, in such a case, again, whatever it is, कम से कम may extend to 25,000. That means you have contravene any provision for supplying of service, contravene any provision for supply of the goods, you are doing what, summon issuer, you are not appearing. So this could be a MCQ wala penalty ki what would be the penalty. So it may extend to 25,000. It is not exactly 25,000. It may extend. हो सकता है कि 25,000 की penalty हो. If I fail to furnish the return, if you fail to furnish information return, if you fail to furnish information return means when information is asked by the department, you fail to furnish 100 rupees per day, during which the failure continues till maximum 5,000. Maximum 5,000 that would be the penalty and 100 rupees per day. Fine or failure to furnish statistics. अब कभी स्टैटिस्टिक वाला वर्ड आ जाए, दे आस्क कि विदाउट एनी रीजन, कोई रीजनेबल कॉज नहीं था एंड यू हैव फेल्ड टू गिव अस द स्टैटिस्टिक दैट वी वांटेड, बैंक से ले सकते हैं, दे कैन आस्क फ्रॉम इंश्योरेंस कंपनी, एनीवेयर दे वांट स्टैटिस्टिक दे कैन टेक, एंड इफ यू फेल टू गिव दैट इज 10,000 and 100 rupees per day, maximum 25. And when there is a contravention, no penalty specified, general penalty would be 25,000. तो अब लर्न करने का काम कर ले. Let us learn section number 120. You do supply but no invoice. You have invoice but no supply. दो चीजें होगी. Then in section number 122, you collect the taxes but fail to pay to the government within 3 months from the due date. ठीक है. You fail to deduct, you fail to collect. That is also possible. So if all these things of fraudulent refund or ITC wrongly availed, utilized or distributed, in all those cases it would be 10,000 or whatever amount you have done, either tax evasion, tax deduction, collection, whatever contravention, whichever is higher. 122(1) is the person who commits or gains the benefit out of it. In such a case, what he is doing, अगर यहाँ पे ये जो person है, if he is doing what? If he supplies, what he do? If he supplies goods or service, या तो invoice is not correct, or invoice is not issued, or even he issues the invoice in contravention to the provisions of the act, or utilize ITC without actual receipt of goods. If you remember, section number 16 was there in my ITC chapter कि if you want to take ITC goods, you should receive. तुम्हें गुड्स रिसीव होना चाहिए, सर्विस रिसीव होना चाहिए, एंड यू आर यूटिलाइजिंग आईटीसी विदाउट सेटिस्फाइंग सेक्शन नंबर 16 का कंडीशन दैट यू शुड रिसीव द गुड्स एंड सर्विस. वहां पे भी whatever you have did wrong, ITC evaded or ITC utilized, उतना पेनल्टी. If you have distributed it, ITC का डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कौन करता है? इनपुट सर्विस डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर. In such a case also उतना ही पेनल्टी. Then this was my demand and recovery wala part, same 10% of the taxes due or 10,000 whichever is higher, and where it is fraud 10% of the taxes due and 100% of 10,000 or 100% of taxes due whichever is higher. Same cut copy paste from 73-74. Then any person who helps. Now 123 यहाँ पे ये aid लिखा है, यहाँ एक चीज समझना. Any person who helps in, यहाँ पे when it is 122(3), if you are helping a person to do the offense of 122 subsection 1, tampering the material evidences, false record है वहाँ पे, या फिर you fail to maintain the accounts. So all those 122(1) का offense, whatever you are doing, अब मैं help कर रही हूँ. Aid means I'm helping, तो help करने के लिए मैं extend to 25,000. हेल्प करने के लिए द पेनल्टी में एक्सटेंड टू 25,000. पोजेशन है, यू रिसीव कंट्रावेंशन में, या फिर समन इशू किया, यू आर नॉट अपियरिंग, या फिर यू इशू द फॉल्स इनवॉइसेस, इन ऑल दोस केसेस अप टू 25,000. रिटर्न फाइल नहीं किया, 100 rupees per day up to 5,000 maximum, and if it is general penalty is 25,000, and statistics you are not giving, so 10,000 or 100 rupees per day up to maximum 25,000. That is what your general penalty is. ठीक है. Now coming to 126, क्या बोलता है? General disciplines related to penalty. Penalty shall not be imposed for minor breaches. अगर छोटी मोटी कोई गलती होती है, it is minor breach, then there would be no penalty. Ma'am, what is minor breach? Already I guess it was July 21 this question is asked. Minor breach का limit क्या है? What you will consider as a minor breach? So it is if the tax involved, if the tax amount involved, it is not ITC, कुछ भी और नहीं, tax involved is less than 5,000, that is minor breach. So tax का involvement less than 5,000, it would be minor breach. Penalty imposed depend on facts and circumstance of the cases. Obviously, penalty will depend facts and circumstance of the cases. Severity, कितना serious breach you have done. So no penalty shall be imposed on any person without opportunity of being heard. Simple. Read भी नहीं करना. Main चीज is this. A 5,000. अगर less than 5,000 is the tax involved, then in such a case it is minor breach. Power to waive the penalty or fees. Yes, obviously government has the power. They want किसी भी taxpayer के लिए they can mitigate, they can waive off the penalty or fees. Now coming to section number 129, detention, seizure and release of goods and conveyance in transit. फिर से पढ़ते हैं. Detain, seize, release. That means it is about detention also, it is about seizure also, and release. DSR. All these three things are covered in section 129. Ma'am, detention किसका होगा, seizure किसका होगा? तो detention, seizure of the goods, release of the goods, as well as the conveyances you are using for the transit of those goods. Truck I am using for transportation of a goods that are liable to confiscation. The goods will also be seized, as well as the truck will also be seized. So conveyances used for transit. Where any person transport any goods, stores any goods, while they are in transit, in contravention to the provision of the act. Any person जब लिखा है, तो that means it could be a taxable person, it could be unregistered person. Any person, अरे even if I am unregistered, I am taking a truck, मैं एक truck drive करके लेके जा रही हूँ, goods लेके जा रही हूँ, that is liable to confiscation, तो मुझ पे भी वो penalty लगेगी. For this section, it is not needed that you should be a registered person or taxable person. So any person who transport any goods or he stores any goods. I have a warehouse, मुझे पता है मैंने warehouse में I have kept the goods and that are liable to confiscation. गलत है. So even if you transport or store goods that while in transit, in contravention to the provision of the act, then all the goods as well as the conveyances that are used shall be liable to detention or seizure. Detention is for a short time and seizure एक लंबा प्रोसीजर स्टार्ट होता है. Now this is important. Suppose I have detained your goods. मैंने तुम्हारे goods क्या कर लिए, detain कर दिए, और I have seized your goods. Either detention of the goods or seizure of the goods I have done. तो यहाँ पे important है where the owner of the goods come forward for the payment of tax and penalty. तुम्हारी जो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन का कन्वेंस है, वॉट एवर गुड्स वर देयर इन द कन्वेंस, सपोज दिस इज द ट्रक, it is having the goods that are actually liable to confiscation. What I have done, I have seized it. Detention and seizure हो गया इसका. Now someone is the owner and owner comes forward कि okay, I will pay the taxes and penalty. So that person is coming. If he pays the tax and penalty, now it depends where that goods that were seized or detained, वो taxable goods थे or exempt goods थे. So if that goods are exempt nature and if that goods are taxable in nature, तो यहाँ पे बोलते हैं अगर देखो टैक्स तो तभी पे कर पाएंगे ना when that goods are taxable. If the goods are not taxable, how they will be paying the taxes? So यहाँ पे समझो, the owner come forwards कि I want to pay the taxes and penalty. तो what would be the tax and penalty? It would be equal to 100% of tax payable. अगर taxable goods है तो whatever is the tax payable का 100% will be your penalty. But ma'am, that are exempt goods. taxes ही नहीं है. So when they are exempt goods, there is no taxes. Then amount equals to 2% of value of goods or 25,000, whichever is less. Amount equal to 2% of the value of goods or 25,000, whichever is less. Then, ma'am, owner doesn't comes forward. तो tax का अब कितना होगा? Now it would not be tax. Value of goods reduced by the amount of tax you have paid. Valuation of the goods will be done. After that, tax will not be included in it. So whatever tax you have paid, uska 50% will be the penalty. Value पे penalty है. Are you getting? Value of the goods minus tax paid 50%. And they are exempt. यहाँ पे 2% of the value था, यहाँ पे 5% of the value और 25,000 whichever is less. So 25,000 at least you have to pay for exempt goods if the owner doesn't come forward. So 5% of the value of goods or 25,000 whichever is less. यही important है, बहुत important है. Every time if they ask the question ना यही, ठीक है? Now, when they will release my goods, obviously you have to pay the taxes and penalty. So यहाँ पे whenever they do the detention of your goods or seizure of your goods, the service of an order, they have to give you a mandatory order. However, no such goods or conveyance shall be detained or seized without serving an order of detention. Compulsory, if you want to detain or seize a goods, it's compulsory, it's mandatory that you have to give what? You have to give service of notice. It is not issue of notice. Notice serve karna padega. That is mandatory. On payment of above amount, all the proceeding deemed to be concluded. Where the person transporting any goods or the owner of the goods fail to pay the tax or penalty within 14 days from such seizure, further proceeding will be initiated under 130 क्या prosecutions. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे सेक्शन कहता है कि if after the seizure 14 days के अंदर you should pay the taxes and penalty and you do not pay the tax and penalty, in such a case 130 के provision start. And sorry, 130 is not prosecution, 130 is confiscation of goods. Seizure and detention एक limited time के लिए होता है, confiscation is a bigger term. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे your confiscation related proceedings will start. So you have to remember this 14 days. कि कितने दिन में confiscation का procedure will start from the date of seizure. It is not from the issue of the notice of seizure, from the date of seizure. ठीक है? And obviously तुम्हें अगर seize करना है, detain करना है तो without issue of notice तुम कर नहीं सकते, तो automatically it would be notice वाला date. Confiscation now 130 is confiscation. If any person, देखो जहां whenever they have written any person, it is registered as well as unregistered person. So any person who supplies receive goods in contravention does not account for any goods who is liable to pay the tax, does not account for any goods on which he is liable to pay the tax. क्या बोल रहा है? If any person supplies or receives the goods in contravention to the provision of the act, and the intention is to evade the taxes, he does not have an account. He does not account for any goods on which he is he is liable to pay the tax, and he has not maintained any records कि किसके goods है, कहाँ जा रहे, कैसा हो रहा, nothing has been maintained. Contravenes any provisions to evade the tax. In short, अगर मैं ये कहूँ confiscation of goods कब होगा, conveyances का confiscation कब होगा, when you have done such an act that you want to evade the taxes, you have not maintained the accounts, you have not paid the taxes. So either any contravention to the provision, you fail to maintain the accounts, you fail to pay the taxes, you have not taken any registration, and you supply the interstate goods. Interstate supply you cannot do without registration. Compulsory registration की proceedings we have done in registration. अगर ऐसा कोई भी contravention you do, you transport such a good, such a conveyance that are not accountable, तुमने उन्हें account नहीं किया, तुमने उसका tax pay नहीं किया, e-way you have not submitted, so any contravention you do, confiscation will be done. So all such goods and conveyance shall be liable to confiscation and the person is liable to penalty under 122. Ma'am, 122 की penalty. Remember section 122 की penalty 10,000 or whatever you have evaded. Tax evasion, tax collection, whichever is higher. This is my section number 122 की penalty. चले आगे. Now, redemption fine. Whenever confiscation of goods or conveyances is authorized by this act, officer adjudicating it shall give to owner an option to pay in lieu of confiscation fine. You can pay us the fine. हम confiscate नहीं करेंगे goods को. We will not confiscate. Just pay us the fine. Penalty तो you have to pay. Fine भी pay कर दो इन चीजों का. So it is at the option. Officer things. इसके ऊपर you can be asked a case study कि is it you can apply कि I want to pay the fine instead of confiscation or it is at the option of officer. Officer का option है. This point you should remember. It is at the option of officer. Discretion of officer. वो decide करेगा. Only in such a case you will get an option to pay the fine in lieu of confiscation. You cannot request. What is the redemption fine? It should not exceed market value of the goods and it should not be less than the taxes. अरे tax से कम नहीं होना चाहिए that redemption fine, but it should not be more than market value of the goods. That is important. Tax penalty other charge. Yes, obviously taxes. अरे penalty payable, fine payable, but taxes तो pay करना ही है ना. You have to pay the tax penalty और वो चीजें तो pay करनी है. So even if you are paying the fine, that doesn't mean कि penalty pay नहीं करनी. Even you are paying the fine, tax penalty and other charges you have to pay. And important. SAC, that means person is of the contention that he has paid the fine in lieu of confiscation. So now he is not liable to pay the tax, interest and penalty. No, contention is incorrect. यहाँ पे सिर्फ तुम्हें समझना है कि even you pay the fine, tax, interest and penalty mandatory. The concerned person will give an opportunity of being heard before passing the order. That is about your offenses, all the offenses, all the penalties. Now, what is this? This is prosecution. Most probably, what I would suggest, कि all this punishment for certain offenses, ये सारे certain offenses दिए हैं, and obviously you would be required to learn this. ये वाला part you have to learn कि what is the amount, kitna would be my confiscation, kitna would be my kitna would be my prosecution, that you have to do. चलो एक बार इसको read out कर ही लेते पूरा. Punishment for certain offenses. So these are the same offenses that we have done. Supply without invoice, supply no supply but invoice, wrongly availment of ITC, or that you fail to collect, or you collect but you do not pay to the government within 3 months from the due date, fraudulently refund taken, falsify the records. Are you getting section number 122? Whatever we have done, that is similar. Sari cheeze wahi. So if you do that offense as well as you abet someone, attempt to do the things, even you attempt to commit the things or you help someone, all these things are included. अगर तुम किसी को help करते हो, even you commit, I will do. Commit भी करते हो और even if you help someone to do all these offenses, तो ये तुम्हारी punishment हो सकती है. So if the tax or ITC wrongly availed or utilized or refund wrongly taken, if it exceeds 5 lakh, 5 years to 5 years with fine. If exceeds 2 lakh, 200 lakh up to 500 lakh, 3 years. If exceeds 100 lakh up to 200 lakh, it is 1 year. So 100 से ऊपर, more than 100 lakh up to 200, it is 1 year. Then more than 200 up to 500, it is 3 years, and more than 500, it is 5 years, and fines compulsory. और नहीं है, तुम्हें फाइन देना ही होगा, कोई ऑप्शन नहीं. मैम, if commit or abet if you help someone or you commit कि I will do this thing, so if you falsify or substitute financial record में हेरफेर you are doing, if you are doing something in records, you are doing something in information, or you prevent a person from discharging the duty. Remember section 122 में discharge नहीं करने दे रहे duties to the officer, or you tamper or destroy evidences. This is again important. If you falsify the record related it is. Record falsify करते हो या फिर you obstruct a person from discharging the duty, or you tamper with or destroy you tamper any material evidences, तो minimum 6 months हो सकता है. It could be 6 months, it is 6 months. It could be with fine or both. Either fine हो सकता है, 6 months हो सकता है, or it could be both. Depends कि क्या तुमने किया. तो 6 month का तो imprisonment is there. 6 month का imprisonment is there. मैम सेकेंड एंड सब्सिक्वेंट ऑफेंस, अरे तुम रिपीट कर रहे हो, वही चीज रिपीट कर रहे हो, एक बार बोला उसके बाद फिर भी वही रिपीट कर रहे हो. तो इन सच अ केस if a person convicted of an offense under this section is again convicting that offense, he shall be punishable for the second on every offense imprisonment for a term that may extend 5 years with a fine. Fine is compulsory. अगर आप रिपीट करते हो ऑफेंस, सो इफ यू आर रिपीटिंग द ऑफेंस तो 5 years may extend to 5 years. I am not saying exact 5 years. May extend to 5 years and fine. So what I would suggest ना, एक लिस्ट बना लो, छोटी सी एक लिस्ट, एक पेज में कि what is the fine, what is the penalty. In fact, where you have written the penalty, उसी के पास में इसका prosecution clause भी लिख के रखो. ऐसे अलग नहीं होना चाहिए. It should not be written separately. एक notes बनाओ. In that notes, whatever is the fine and penalty and whatever is the imprisonments, एक साथ लिखते रखो. That will do the task. तुम्हारा एक साथ में सारा revision हो जाएगा. Then, however, in absence of special or adequate reason to the contrary to be recorded in judgment of court, imprisonment shall not be for a term less than 6 months. If there is no adequate reason, तुम समझा नहीं पाए कि why this have happened, ये offense repeat हुआ, okay, but why it happens. तो if there is not an adequate reason, तो minimum 6 month का तो imprisonment is there. तो repetition कर रहे तो अब तो जेल में जाना पड़ेगा, तो minimum 6 month. Who will sanction of commissioner? This is important. Previous sanction of commissioner is needed for prosecution unless prosecution will not start. ठीक है. Now, liability of officers and other person. This is willful disclosure of any information. If someone comes कि I willful, मैं खुद disclose करती हूँ willfully, I disclose every information. So where there is a willful disclosure of any person or content of any written, तो सामने वाला खुद से चल के आ रहा है ना. और in such a case, any person who is engaged in collection of statistics, if any officer of central tax officer has access to an information, and if any person engaged in connection with the person or service on common portal willfully disclose any information or content of any return furnished under this act. Now, थोड़ा सा mistake हुआ मुझसे बोलने में, rectify करते हैं. Liability of officer and certain other person. See, actually you are the person who is having all the statistics. You are having information like banker, like central government. They are having central government officers. You are having information. You are having statistics. Now you are working on the common portal and you willfully disclose information. तुम्हारे पास ये information है. तुम उस information को willfully किसी और person को disclose कर रहे हो. So if you have that information and willfully you disclose that information, in such a case punishment तो मिलेगा. So imprisonment for a period that may extend, this is important, may extend, हो सकता है 6 months, fine 25,000 or both. It could be up to 6 months, it could be fine or both. Again, previous sanction, if it is a government servant, so no prosecution will start unless sanction of government is there, and if it is not a government servant, commissioner ka sanction is needed. मैंडेटरी लर्न कर लो. गवर्नमेंट सर्वेंट को प्रोसिक्यूशन यू वांट टू स्टार्ट, you have to take permission of government, and if it is not government ka servant, then commissioner ka you have to take what, commissioner ki you have to take permission. Now this is just part of reading, just a reading, but you have to read it. Now what is compounding of offense? Very easy. Now what is compounding of offense? Offense under the act may either before or after the institution of prosecution. It is may. हो सकता है. It is not mandatory. It might be. Either before you do any prosecution or after you do any prosecution. Either before or after prosecution has been started. तुम्हारे against prosecution start हो गया या फिर start होने से पहले. Commissioner may compound on payment of. Now, it would be compounded by commissioner on payment by the person accused of an offense to central government, state government. You have to do certain payment, and after the payment prosecution, whatever initiated or is about to initiate, उसकी compounding हो जाएगी. मतलब जेल में जाने की जगह instead of having an imprisonment, you can pay the amount and आपका compounding हो जाएगा. तो सारी proceeding will be deemed to be closed. अब compounding हो सकती है, prosecution initiate हुआ, compounding is possible, but when compounding is not possible, that is important and very important. Person who has been allowed to compound it once for any offense, एक बार compounding allow कर दी. We have already allowed compounding of any offense specified under 132 and offense in clause 1 which are related to offense of clause A to F. Now what was there in 132? फिर से आते हैं. So they have already allowed you. क्या करा है उन्होंने? Already तुमको क्या allow किया है? एक बार जिस चीज पे punishment होती ना, all these things की without bill supply है, whatever 122 के सारे clauses. तुमको एक बार punishment हुई, prosecution हुआ, तो कोई भी चीज एक बार तुमने की, उसके लिए if we allow you compounding, तो one time compounding allowed, but यहाँ पे क्या लिखा है एक बार नोटिस करना, which relates to clause A to F. A to F clause वाले ही. Now what is there in A to F? A to F में all those 122 के clauses has been given. वो कर रहे हो तो मैम आई एम हेल्पिंग समवन, मैं हेल्प कर रहा हूँ इन चीजों के लिए, आई एम हेल्पिंग समवन, दैट इज नॉट कवर्ड है. तो अगर प्रोसिक्यूशन हैव बीन इनिशिएटेड, इनिशिएशन ऑफ प्रोसिक्यूशन हुआ है अकॉर्डिंग टू ए टू एफ क्लॉज में, तो ही वन टाइम है. अदरवाइज इफ इट इज नॉट ए टू एफ, इन शॉर्ट अगर मैं बोलूँ वहां पे जहां पे हेल्पिंग वाला नेचर आ गया कि यू आर हेल्पिंग और जस्ट कमिट किया है कि आई विल डू, इन सच ए केस, कमिट करने के केस में, हेल्प करने के केस में, इट इज नॉट one time. Person who has been allowed to offense once in respect of any offense other than those that has been given in clause A, इसके अलावा any clause में you have been given कि चलो compounding we will do. So if person has been allowed compounding once in respect of any offense, but that is not ये A clause वाला offense, in such a case if the value exceeds 1 crore, तो 1 crore के above value तो भी one time. Any case 1 crore के above it is one time. Now a person who has been accused of committing an offense which is also offense under any other law. अरे किसी और law में भी this is an offense. तो हमारे यहाँ compounding देंगे, वहाँ पे क्या मतलब है? तो if that same offense is an offense under any other law, compounding नहीं होगी. Convicted for any offense under this act by court. A person who has been convicted for, कोर्ट ने बोल दिया कि you have to convicted for an offense under this act, कोर्ट का ऑर्डर आया, we can't do anything. Accused of committing an offense, C, J, G, J, K, and any other person or offense as may be prescribed. Now person section 132 G, J, K पे आ जाए, कम एक बार 132 पे आई जाते. Now C, G, JK, even if this offense, in short में बोलूं 132 के all the offenses one time, Any other offense greater than 1 crore, 1 time. But if it is about helping, then it's okay. It's okay means वहाँ पे compounding वाला provision है. Compounding not affect proceeding initiated under other law. Other law को कोई disturb नहीं करेगा. इधर अगर compounding हुई है तो this will be compounding here only. Other law में compounding deemed नहीं होता है. मैम compounding का amount minimum limit and there is an upper limit. You have to learn this. Minimum limit is 50% of the tax involved or 10,000. And upper is 150% of the tax involved or 30,000. 50% of tax involved or 10,000, whichever is higher. And upper limit 150% or 30,000, whichever is higher. Again in July 21, this MCQ was there. Direct MCQ. 50% tax involved, 10,000, 150% tax involved, 30,000, whichever is higher. Abatement of proceedings and non-initiation of criminal proceeding. All the proceeding will be closed. एक बार अगर compounding has been done, all your proceeding will close. उसके respect में, उस offense के respect में close हो जाएगी. Understood? So this is your offense and penalty. This is just a revisionary chart. Questions are very less. Do practice it. इसको practice करके खत्म करो. So basically, when it comes to offense and penalty, a small chapter, you have to learn it. Learning में compounding you will find important. Learning में what is your minor breach. So all those limit वाले parts are important. Learn that properly. Apart from that, questions are not at all tough. Remember, when owner comes forward, owner does not come forward, that is again an important thing. वो एक और important है that you have to do. So just practice Bangar के questions, test your knowledge के question, and this video more than sufficient for offense and penalty. Okay? Chalo. So if you have doubt, you can ask me through the comment as well as you can ask me on the Telegram channel for registered student. Okay? Chalo.